Mm, 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 mm. Let's talk about it, man. Hold on, let me get my shit straight right quick. We good, man. Still bills, what's the deal, man? Yo, man, we got to talk about last night. Oh man, first I want to say this, man. Shout out to Canelo Alvarez. I'm hearing he's the first Mexican to ever go undisputed. Sheesh. Sheesh. Salute to that. Or he's the first Latino in general to go undisputed. I don't know. At least in the four belt era, I'm sure there's been other Mexican undisputed champions, or Latino undisputed champions, but none that I'm privy to. So I won't say that he's the first because I don't want to be incorrect, but I do know he's the first in history to go undisputed at 168, and he just so happens to be Mexican. So salute to him on that. Secondly, salute to Caleb Plant, man. He actually came to fight. He didn't come to lay down. He wanted that fight. He wanted that fight. I saw that. I saw it in his mannerisms. I saw it in his attitude leading up to the fight. Just he didn't come to lay down. He didn't come for just the check. He came for the legacy as well. So salute to him on that, man. But nonetheless, we got to get to the meat and potatoes of it, man. First round out the gate, man. One thing I've noticed about Caleb Plant throughout the whole fight, the first round was indicative of the whole fight pretty much. And that is, Caleb Plant never held his ground in the middle of the ring. He never stood on the square, 10 toes, mid-ring. And that was the reason everybody was picking him to win, because of this outboxing ability, man. Like, you can have all the outboxing skills you want. If you are intentionally trapping yourself on the rope, you are putting yourself at a disadvantage. Egregious disadvantage, man. I don't know. I think he was placing himself on the rope, but I also think Canelo had a lot to do with that, with his pressure, man. This dude was pressing the action. He was feinting. He was changing levels and just giving him different looks. And Plant clearly was uncomfortable with it. Clearly uncomfortable with it, man. And he straddled the rope the entire fight. The entire fight. So he straddled the rope the entire fight, man. But out the gate, he came out. He outworked Canelo in the first round. But you can still argue Canelo won that round because he landed the cleaner shots and the harder and more effective punches. But he did outwork him in that round. So I mean, I'm like, yo, man, that's a swing. You can argue Canelo won that round. Canelo only he looked like Lomachenko in there. Just real inactive. Just real inactive, man. You seen Canelo open up gradually throughout the rounds. He never came out overly aggressive, be real passive in one round, then come out overly aggressive in the next round. No. It was a build-up. So second round, pretty much the same thing. Canelo is he's going to the body a little bit more. He's getting a little bit more active. And same with the third round. I think I was pretty accurate on my prediction as to what I thought was going to happen in the fight. I thought I was pretty accurate. Caleb Plant will get out to an early, get in rhythm early, get out an early start, get in rhythm early, and it will take Canelo a minute to figure him out. I think he could have got him out there a little bit faster than he did if he came out like he did with Billy Joe Saunders. But I think he didn't want to go out there and risk no bullshit. So he is like, fuck it, I'm just go out here and just download this dude's information and just take it slow. We got 36 minutes of work, man. There's no need to rush. So goes out there, second round, third round, all the same. But you really start to see Canelo begin to separate himself around the fourth or the fifth round. The fourth or the fifth round, man. He started finding a home for that left hand over the top of his guard. And while we on that, I gotta say this, the Floyd comparisons must stop. I've seen a few people reference Floyd as if him and Floyd are somewhat compatible. Floyd would never in his life get clipped by consecutive left hooks over his guard. He'd make that small arm adjustment. He'd move his arm up slightly so, you know, he'd catch the glove, you know, he'd catch the punch on his glove. If he'd do little shit like that. He'd drop his shoulder a little, or he'd drop his arm a little bit more to protect his body. He'd do shit, those little small adjustments in the pocket. He'd do that. There's no way no fighter would have ever been able to catch Floyd that many times out of that stance. You dig? Just in general, you're not about to keep catching Floyd with the same shot, man. These niggas just because you use the Philly shell and you got good, you know, you got good footwork, that does not make you Floyd Mayweather. That does not make you Floyd Mayweather. Floyd Mayweather would never compromise his entire left side because he keeps leaning to one side. There's no way. There's no way. He was a lot more elusive with the, you know, when he bends at the waist. He's not gonna just bend the one way. The fuck is wrong with niggas? But you really started to see Canelo separate himself around that 5th round when he landed that big left hook. And like I said, Caleb Plant was leaning to one side a lot in that fight, and he was just his left side was open to just getting hammered with the right hand over and over and over. And then the thing is, when you already have you know, a suspect gas tank and you're consistently leaning and dipping low to get up under shots because, you know, you're defensively you're good. That takes energy. Even at the highest level, you can have an incredible gas tank, but that takes energy. That expends energy. Getting down low, you know, weaving up under punches and shit. That shit takes energy, man. And when someone's consistently at your body, it's gonna saturate your energy that much more. So he did a lot of bending and dipping and everything and rolling up under shots, and he was just getting his body beat up. And I think at this point in time, we need to go ahead and dead the narratives that, oh man, he can't deal with slick fighters, because he's dealt with 2 in a row pretty ferociously. That's just being 100 about it. That's just being all the way 100 about it. Hold on, let me go up. Turn this AC on. It's at 84. No, nigga, we gonna turn that down. That AC. But yeah, man, he was just beating the dude's body up, man. You know, because his whole entire left side was exposed because he decided he wanted to keep dipping. Man. The thing is this, man. You cannot. The biggest thing, he was placing himself on the ropes as well. He was straddling the ropes. It was a multitude of Canelo's pressure and him willingly going to the ropes. Willingly. You've seen him do a few times. You know, he'll step in, like he did it early, but he didn't maintain it. He'd step in, wrap him up, and then spin him around and get back to the middle of the ring. Except he'd get back in the middle of the ring and pass the middle of the ring up and go back to the other end of the ropes. It's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? The whole reason is to not get trapped on the ropes. That is the whole reason. You want to stay at the middle of the ring, so you got so much more room to maneuver around. You got all the ring to maneuver around, and he's gonna have to come and find you, but you're walking him into traps. That's eventually gonna lead to frustration, and frustration leads to desperation. But it was none of that. It was none of that. He straddled the rope the entire fight. And another thing that people are doing is they're gassing the success that he had in those rounds. They're super drag out gassing him, man. Like he had good moments later on in the fight, but people are equating that to him actually winning the round. It's like, what fight are y'all watching? He is getting his body destroyed. He's probably pissing blood today. He's probably pissing blood because of how bad the body assault was on that man. But all of that gets ignored because he throws a few flurries. You know what I'm saying? They're late in the round. They're far in between. He did a pretty good job with countering Canelo at close quarters, man. Rolling slipping a shot and coming back with the right hand right in the pocket. He was real poised. It looked good. But the thing is, it was no power there for Canelo to respect. And that was the biggest takeaway from this fight was I don't think he doesn't have the power to keep Canelo honest. On one hand, that's why I pretty much had the fight. I was like, yo, he ain't got enough snap. But then I'm also like, that isn't the only factor going into this fight. It's ring IQ as well. It's just not him just walking him down, just eating punches and ain't getting nothing back. No, that wasn't the case. He was in there he was boxing smart. He was boxing really smart. So from like the 6th round on, it was downhill momentum for Canelo Alvarez. It was downhill momentum. I don't know what niggas is getting at. Oh man, like I've seen people say I had it 7-3. I had it. I'm like, what fight are y'all watching right now? I'm like, and you visibly seen like around, especially in the mid rounds, the 7th and the 8th round, you visibly start to see that man. He's not swift. He's not as agile as he was early on in the fight because of the body assault. All that shaking his head no early on. All right, that's cool. That's cool. It sound good. You won't be shaking your head no for too much longer because you're gonna start feeling these bodies. You're gonna start feeling them. And sure enough, he started placing the punches exactly where they needed to be. And you start to really see that shit in his face. You start to see that hand drop or that arm drop to defend the body, to defend the rib. You started seeing all that. So I'm like, I don't know which fight y'all niggas is watching, man. And once again, like when he started opening up with combinations, he would throw 2 punches away just to land the third, just to land on the 3. He did that often. He will open up 3-punch combination. You got good defense, so you're gonna be able to slip a couple of them, but you're not slipping 3. And that's what happened. Slip, whack. That happened more than often. He was countering to the body effectively. Like this, it was just clearly he outclassed him. That's just the long and short of it. He outclassed him. And Floyd would never in his life, like I said, he would never sit there and allow himself to be subject to getting clipped with the same punch. And that same punch he was getting clipped with over and over and over again led to his downfall. That left hook over the top of the guard was pinpoint. And then the uppercut sent that man to hell. Like, I don't know what fight y'all niggas was watching, bro, but hell no. He lost. And he was losing. They did the same shit with Billy Joe Saunders. Oh, man, yeah, he's winning. No, he's not. And people got mad at me when I said Billy Joe Saunders did better. He did do better. Canelo was already in rhythm when Billy Joe Saunders began to string rounds together. He was already in rhythm. And he was beating him at the middle of the ring in the rounds that he won. He was able to string about 2 or 3 rounds together. He got in a nice little groove, stayed mid-ring, never trapped himself on the ropes, and he found success. Yes, Billy Joe Saunders did better. The difference in that fight was Billy Joe Saunders got stopped in the 8th, Caleb got stopped in the 11th, because Canelo came out more aggressive against Billy Joe Saunders. Like, people don't know how to unpack shit, man. Motherfuckers do not know how to unpack a fight. That shit is aggravating. That shit is real life aggravating. So all the Floyd comparisons and oh man, he has problems with slick fighters, and they're like, man, listen, dog, it sound good. It sounds good. But at the end of the day, he lost. Bad. He got dominated. Motherfuckers is getting... How you going to give a nigga a round for surviving? That's all Caleb Plant was doing, was surviving. That man was not in there trying to win the fight, because after a while, he knew he couldn't win the fight. He knew that. For Canelo to come out and start cutting angles on the dude, I don't recall seeing that shit from Canelo often. Cutting angles and all. I don't recall seeing that. I did see some Andre Ward tactics from Caleb Plant, and I knew he was gonna be. I knew that was why they was bringing Canelo or Andre Ward in the camp. But it's like, to do that, you put yourself in the danger zone. He was boxing smart early. Canelo would get too close and he'd wrap him up. That was smart. That was smart. But like I said, man, what happens when... That's not enough. That's not no... He's shorter than you, yeah, but he's brolic. I'm sure he's stronger than you. You're not going to be able to hold his arms. You're not going to be able to do that. He's going to find a way out. And he's going to punish you for that. You're too close. I bet that. I'm gonna get loose. I'm launching these uppercuts. He just had to do guessing the whole fight. He had him guessing the entire fight. I don't want to hear shit else about this dude not being able to deal with slick outboxers, man. I don't. I really don't. And before I get off here, I also want to say this, man. I fucks with Demetrius Andrade. I do. I think the dude is a class act. He's a comedian. He's hysterical. And he's a dope fighter. But people keep pushing this narrative. Oh, now he's ducking this. Now he's ducking two black fighters. And I'm like, man, listen, dog. Charlo don't want none of that. Charlo don't want none of that. Charlo don't want none of that. And Andre would somewhat be a bit more of a uphill battle for Canelo, only because of his footwork. But as we see, footwork is not gonna be... You're not gonna be able to take away from Canelo the entire fight, because he's not moving gracefully and tap dancing outside as most, but he's cutting the ring off. And the thing is, with Caleb Plant, he throws a lot. His punches are a lot shorter, crisper, and more compact than Demetrius Andrade. Andrade throws wide. I've said this before. Canelo will stop Andrade. That's just being real about it. He'd stop Andrade. He'd stop him. He'd stop that dude. It's no disrespect to Demetrius, but he'd stop Demetrius, dog. He'd stop him. He'd get punished for those wide looping shots. Badly. So shout out to Caleb Plant for standing his ground. Not standing his ground, but going in there with the sense of confidence, like, I want to win this fight. It just wasn't enough. He did good in spurts. Now, what do you do after this? You dig? Like, this is the problem with inactivity, man. Motherfucker, he was just complacent with fighting once this year, 10 months ago. And you only have 21 fights at that, and you ain't fought a multitude of opponents. I think Jose Uzcategui would have been a good opponent. You know, that's a good opponent to have on your resume, and you got championship experience with him. I bet that. But now let's keep building that resume up. People do not understand the importance of fighting motherfuckers that is going to expose certain weaknesses in your game. In Caleb Plant's situation, he's slick. Like Canelo had, he couldn't hit him early on. He started tapping the body, hitting the arms. He had to work for the shots. But around the 5th round, he started landing. So, yeah. Y'all gonna... I'm gonna need everybody... I'm hearing Charlo, all these niggas is talking like they want to get in there and run it. Charlo, if you fight Canelo Alvarez next, after taking this long of a rest period from you and Montiel, that's a disaster waiting to happen. Canelo is different. He's proven himself to be unfuckable in this generation. Any fighter who beats Caleb Plant or Billy Joe Saunders or Callum Smith, anybody who beats somebody like that, that's a legitimate win. But because it's Canelo, he's a cherry pick. It's a cherry pick. Like, y'all niggas is burnt the fuck out, man. That was an incredible win last night. That's how you stamp a legacy. There's no better way of getting all 4 belts than a knockout and not leaving it into the hands of the judges. And the fact that he only did it in 11 months. He fought 3 world champions, 1 mandatory, and 3 world champions in 11 months, dog. Like, nobody is doing that. Nobody is doing that. So I just don't know what else to say, man. The kid is a problem, dog. Like, he's a problem. He's a motherfucking problem. And niggas is gonna have to start acknowledging that and quit trying to push these narratives, man. Because while Demetrius Andre, everybody keeps, pumping Demetrius Andre and Charlo, like, it's like, what are y'all doing? Let's get active. Andre has a fight coming up. Yeah, that's what's up. He's trying to be active, but he still somewhat is chasing a Canelo fight and getting real complacent. Charlo, I don't know what the fuck you doing, my nigga. Getting into it with Jared Hurd and shit. Like, bro, it's gonna take somebody special and somebody different to be able to deal with a Canelo Alvarez. And y'all not proving to be different because y'all work ethic ain't even showing it, man. So salute to Canelo Alvarez. He's clearly the best of this generation. And usually when it comes to the best of this generation, they just completely separate themselves from everybody else. Floyd and Manny was last generation, and what did they do? Completely separate themselves from everybody else. Even with Juan Manuel Marquez, they became rivals. Yeah, they did. They were good fights, but Manny was winning the fights, except the fourth. And Canelo was looking to be of that ilk, where he's just head and shoulders better than above everybody. So yeah, man, there really ain't too much to say about last night, man. Shout out to Canelo. You did your shit. Good fucking win. And I'm looking forward to the next fight, man. Peace.